Okay. Oh my goodness. anything can happen. Thank you, Bill, for the thumbs up on the audio. For some reason, one of my triggers got misplaced. I think. I hope. You know, the problem with a trigger, problem with Tiggers are, you remember that? That's Winnie the Pooh. That's some high tech, high level philosophy there. Um, what are we thinking here? Yeah. So anything can happen. No, but I had a trigger set to boost the audio on that poster that you were just seeing with the fireworks, and somehow that must have gotten disabled in testing or something like that. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting show today. I'm looking forward to it. Spent some time setting it up, not as much time as last week, so we may have to bumble through a few things. Plus, there's some surprises that will be surprises to me. So that will be fun. I haven't heard anything more on vMix 25 or a release for vMix 25. In fact, let's check that just real quick. I'm going to go to vMix. Oh, heck, fire. Why don't I just show you instead of telling you? So we're going to add an input. We're going to add a web browser input. It's going to be to vMix. We're going to say OK. We're going to bring that up, and we'll fade it in. Ooh, that took care of my audio, didn't it? All right, so we're going to go to support. We're going to go to forums, and we are going to look at general discussion, and we're going to look and see if there's anything here. Oh, let me sharpen that a little bit for you. There we go. That's a little help. A little help. Yep. This is where we would see it. We would see vMix 25 released, what do they call it? Pre-public release, or I don't think they call it a beta, at least not in here. We'll have to see. So anyway, that's the story with that. We will have to wait and see. My guess would be, if you had to pin me down on it, that vMix would release this close to Christmas time. Hello, Daniel. Welcome. A beta. Is that how they pronounce it? It's not the way we pronounce it here in the U.S., a beta, but it's a beta. But that's the way those Aussies are. You know, they'll pronounce things the way they're spelled. Aluminium. Try saying that one and reading it in English. Aluminium, which we, of course, call aluminum. Not the way it's spelled. And what's the other? That is it the H that's pronounced H? No. The Y, C. I'll have to remember what letter it is when they spell it out. It's pronounced maybe H. But it makes sense when you think about it. It's much more logical than the way we've butchered it. But that's the way it goes. H, yeah, H. And Z, that was the other one. It's not Z, it's Z. Why not Z? I mean, it takes so much more effort to say Z. Maybe that's why us Americans have shortened it to just D. Just Z, yeah. But that's okay. There are some interesting distinctions and differences that probably don't amount to a whole lot. But you never know. Yeah, American versus English, exactly. And my grandmother was English. She was born in London and then immigrated to the Bahamas as I think as a fairly young child. It may have been during the war years, something like that. And then my dad was actually born in the Bahamas in a house. That's just the way it was. And his big sister was born during the middle of a hurricane. And that was indicative of who she would be in a lot of ways. She was a, I won't say she was a wild woman, but she was very artistic, very talented, very outspoken, lovely woman. Anyway, enough family history here. Today's show is going to be interesting. We're gonna do probably the next to last segment on our PC build. So we'll get into that. We'll be installing some software and optimizing the PC for vMix. And again, this is a junker. This is a piece of junk PC. But it's like, if you haven't seen it, vMix put out a really neat video on YouTube maybe a day or two ago, where they tried to find, this was Tim and Heath. Heath is one of the new vMix guys. Tim and Heath tried to find the smallest footprint PC they could that would run vMix, and they ended up with a little teeny little one, and a teeny little monitor, and really kind of interesting to watch that video. So take a look at it, and some little teeny Celeron processor, and hello Clint, welcome, glad you're here. And just the Intel graphics, and what else was it, like a 2.6 megahertz processor, gigahertz, terahertz. And Clint and I have met in person. We have met in person. It was a long, long time ago, back in the olden days when we used to go to trade shows. Oh my gosh. Yep, they pronounce it like that, so we listen closer. Did anybody catch, maybe you didn't read it, maybe you just come straight to the show, but in the promo for this show, both in Facebook and on YouTube, we talked about optimizing the PC, and we spelled it the Australian way. Does anybody know what the Australian way is to spell optimize? There's one letter different than the way we spell it here in the US. And it's one of several words that the Brits and the Aussies have changed. Or maybe they did it the way it's supposed to and we changed it. Not sure. Optimizing with an S. That's right. Kevin Michael Reed, welcome. Indeed. Optimizing. Sing, not zing. Same as the UK and Ireland. There you go. There you go. Probably same as maybe the English speakers in India, or maybe the Caribbean. We'll have to see. A lot of, yep, that's right, Tim. The Z and the S. The Z. The language is called English. Yeah, that's right. It is called English. It's not called American. But that's the nice thing about language. You can change it to whatever you want. And there's grammar police out there. I've been nabbed by them a time or two. All right, let's get this show on the road, shall we? We have a button for that on our fabulous. Can we get it out here where we can show it? It's covered up by all sorts of goodies. But our lovely XK80 from X Keys, it has got all of these custom buttons. Actually, some of the custom buttons are really cool. I use that. That's the little vMix banana guy. And I use that button as a mute button for when I have to cough or sneeze. Let's see if it works. Yep. So I think did it turn me off? No. Maybe it just turns me off. Well, maybe. There it is. There we go. Do we have more than one mic on? Hold on, let's check. Yeah, there we go. Maybe that turned it on. There we go. Now it's operating right. I've got multiple microphones and I've got them set to come on and off based on what camera is being used, but sometimes it works and sometimes it's me. All right, so let's get this show on the road, shall we? We're going to press the pink button. There we go. All right. It worked. Hey, I'm Tom Sinclair. This is Streaming Idiots. This is the official end of the internet. If you've come this far, you can't go any further. There's a wall there. I'm teasing, of course. Delighted to have you with us. Streaming Idiots is for everybody that does live streaming or wants to, because sooner or later you're going to feel like an idiot when you're doing it. And yeah, all the idiots get together. In fact, there is tentatively scheduled a meeting of the Streaming Idiots in person, eyeball to eyeball, shoulder to shoulder, in April of 2022 in Las Vegas at NAB, assuming that happens. And you're invited. So if you're there, we'll make sure you know when and where. It's been a good gathering when we've had it in the past. We've done it, I think, 3 different times and had a really, really great show. And it's been a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do it again, just purely social, with some prizes and giveaways and things like that to make it fun. So we'll have a go at that. We'll have a go at that. As you may have heard, vMix has announced that they are going to be releasing vMix 25 in beta. That's the Australian pronunciation of beta. In December. Well, vMix, it's December. But my guess will be, as they have done in the past, they've released it closer to the end of the month, towards Christmas and the holidays that are associated with that, so that if you get a new PC for Christmas, wouldn't that be fun? And I'll build you one if you want. If you get a new PC for Christmas, you can try the vMix beta on the new PC, even if you have an old PC. In fact, we're going to, in just a minute, we're going to move to the workshop, and we're going to continue on our project of a junker PC. I've just made it of spare parts. It's a Frankenstein, although it's not nearly as big and powerful. But we'll get to that in just a second. So a question that's going to come up, Tom, can I take this beta and how can I look at it without messing up my current vMix installation? Well, that's an important question to know the answer to. The answer is you can take the beta and install it right over your existing installation. So you've probably got, what have we got here? 24.0.0.72. That's the current official release of vMix, vMix 24.0.0.72. And that is still available, obviously, from the vMix website. You can download it. So if you don't already have it in your downloads, and you download and install the beta, you can then download and install version 24 again right over the beta. Nothing will be lost. Everything will be in its place. Of course, it's always a good idea to back up. Everybody backs up your important files, right? You have an automated way where it just takes all your files and backs them up automatically. You do. Nod your head up and down. Yes, I do. And at least half of you are lying. But do it. Make that your New Year's resolution to set up a backup so all your files are in the right place. Ran into a situation. Hello, Rich. You haven't missed anything yet. I ran into a situation yesterday with a client, a dear friend client. So if he's watching, you know you're a dear friend. But he had a problem with his audio. And it was a relatively complex setup. And I didn't have the documentation, even though I helped him set it up months and months ago. I didn't have the documentation on how it was done. Neither did he. And somebody somewhere had made an important change, and lots of things stopped working as a result. Whether he made the change or somebody else made the change, we don't know. I mean, who remembers that kind of stuff anyway? You know, you make a change, you really don't mean to make a change. Or maybe you make a change for a minute and then you're going to change it back later and you forget to change it back later. I've done that. In fact, I may have done that today. But the reason I'm telling this story is it's a good idea to document, especially if you have a complex setup of triggers or shortcuts or audio or, you know, routing of video, that kind of thing. You know, take some time, take some paper and draw it out. You know, if you have to draw circles and arrows and boxes and, you know, make sure everything's labeled as to where it goes, because sooner or later something's going to happen. You know, what about raise your hand if your computer is protected from lightning strikes or brownouts? I see you. Yours isn't. Don't raise your hand. I know it isn't. Mine is, because I had a power failure. In fact, I remember when the studio, one or two more quick stories, and then we'll get over to the workshop. When I had the studio in a spare bedroom at home, we had a power outage one day, and the lights went out, and the computer and the monitors in that room were on a battery backup. So we still had computer, and in my closet where the modem was, that was on a battery backup. So the live stream was still live streaming, and I was still seeing it. Didn't have any light, just had whatever light was coming in through the window, but still going. So I would challenge you to put on your Christmas list, if you haven't already, to get a battery backup for your studio, wherever your studio is, even if it's only a part-time studio. It's worth doing it right. Now, if you're on a laptop, you say, well, Tom, I'll just switch over to a laptop battery. Some laptops really throttle down the CPU when it's running on battery. I had that happen with an old Dell, and I couldn't figure out why I didn't have any horsepower when I wasn't plugged into shore power. And looked in the documentation, and there's an adjustment where you can adjust what percentage of power the CPU will operate on. And I think it was set for like 10% or something like that. That won't work. So you can check it and adjust it, or you can just make sure you're plugged into battery backup. Some battery backups actually clean up the power too. When they convert it from AC to DC and then back from DC to AC, it's some sort of sine wave inverter decombobulator. Yeah, look it up. And that's what you're looking for. Michael Graves says, dual conversion UPS. That's the way to go. Thank you, Michael Graves. Dr. Graves. There we go. So Michael lives at Hurricane Alley. Yeah, me too. Me too. And periodically my batteries will die, and I'll just order a new battery, and you know, it's just a couple screws to put it in, and you're on your way again. I've got two or three here in the studio backing up different devices, and would encourage you to do that. Got one at the church for the same reason. At the church, actually, it was another little side tangent, is I like to leave my PCs on 24/7, so I've got access to them wherever I am, including the one at the church. And what I found was I would go to dial in to the one at the church, and it was turned off. I thought somebody was just turning it off to save power. Well, maybe they were. But I was there at the church one day. I don't think it was a Sunday. I think I just swung by to check some. Oh, I swung by because it wasn't working. That's what it was. And I turned it on, and after working on it for a minute, the power just flickered at the church. The lights flickered, and the PC went off, didn't come back on. It couldn't bridge the gap in that flicker. So the battery backup was the solution. And what that means is, you know, if I get a wild hair and I want to dial in at 2 a.m, I can do that even if there was a thunderstorm out there that knocked off all the power. You know, I guess I guess the modem would have to be on battery backup too, but it would reset itself automatically when the power came back on. So yeah, there you go. There you go. Jim likes the APC brand. I think that's what I've got. Yep, I've got APC. All right, so let's move over to the studio, to the workshop. And I'm going to take my keyboard with me. And I love this little keyboard. It's just a little, what brand is it? It is a Seenda, S-E-E-N-D-A. Now, the Aussies would pronounce that differently. And it came with a little wireless mic. And it's, pretty small and very portable. I like it. And I can push it out of the way. So we're going to run vMix from the workstation back there. I've got a second monitor hooked up back there, or actually a fourth monitor, and we'll use these guys to control it. So let's walk back there, and I will switch cameras, and hopefully we'll switch microphones when we do that. Otis is there. He has multiple API. He has more APSs than I do. Stage boxes, vMix computers, audio mixer, presentation computers, servers, and amps. Well, Otis, heck fire, dude. You get the prize. And Tim says, check your UPS battery dates. Tim, I have never done that. I need to do that. That's good. That's good. All right. So let's head back there. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Okay. All right, so we're on this mic right here. I don't think you can see it in the picture, but there's a boom mic right there. And it's the same Audio-Technica AT897, or is it ATR897? Maybe it's AT897. It's a little condenser mic, little shotgun mic. And for some reason, I love them. I noticed in last week's broadcast that, excuse me, that my voice was lower, deeper, richer, maybe too rich over here. And I checked and I had the EQ way off on this one as compared to the one in the other room. So interesting to see. Let's take this off. There we go. And we're in our spare parts build. And what we've got, let's switch over to a shot of that. We have got this little system that we've basically pulled out of the scrapyard. And this is what we've got in it. It's an Asus H87M, which means it's a micro ATX format, M Pro, an Intel i7-4700 CPU, which is a good CPU. It's just got some age on it, but it still runs long. I think it's 3.2 gigahertz, megahertz, terahertz. 8 gigs of Kingston RAM, so a little lower than vMix would like. Got a mammoth power supply, and somebody forgot to turn their phone off. Sorry about that. We're also using an AMD a capture card, a graphics card, excuse me, something from a company called Sapphire, which has got VGA and DisplayPort, VGA, HDMI, and DVI. So we've got some options there. That's not going to be any help to vMix at all, but we'll just have to see how it does. We also have 2 solid-state drives. We've got this little guy here. Pull him out from underneath the graphic. Just a 3.5 Samsung 128 gigabyte. And then over here, we've got the same size format, Western Digital 500. And then we have an InstallJet, but we have a Magewell capture card that, again, was just in the scrap pile. Now, your scrap pile may be different than my scrap pile. And then last week, we found out that I had installed Windows on this drive a year ago. So booted right up with Windows. I've also got a little passive USB hub right here. that I have a thumb drive in that has a lot of drivers on it. And then I've also got a wireless access for keyboard and mouse. And I just plug that in, and it makes, getting access to all that stuff quickly pretty easily. We're plugged into to the network, and then of course we're plugged into power twice, and then power also on our drives, and we did all that last week. So let's fire this guy off and see if we can move on with our project. So we need to plug in power to the 850. Boy, that's a monster, isn't it? 850 watt, and we'll turn him on. And then I've got a handy dandy. I bet you've got one of these too. It's a key to turning on your computer. It's just a pen. And if I bridge two of the pins over here, I think it's these two. Yep, there we go. It'll just start off. And it's the same thing that the switch does when you have it installed in a case. All right. And so let's see, where is my mouse here? We can see that we are booting into Windows. And if I were really good, I would have hooked this up to a desktop capture or something, but then you couldn't see the BIOS. You couldn't see all the kinds of things that I see. All right, so here you can even see that this was registered as ESB20. That means it's a year. All right, so we've got things set up, and let's go in and just double check. I don't recall if we did this last time or not. It says Windows is not activated, and I'm not going to activate Windows at this point because we really don't know what we're going to do with it, and we can be fully functional with just a few minor features in Windows that we're not going to be able to do. But let's go into Update and Security and see if we're updated. Updates will resume January 5th. Looks like I've probably done the updates. So let's go ahead and resume that. Get ready for Windows 11. Well, I can assure you this computer doesn't meet that. And the update we're getting is an update for Windows 10 version. Whoops, it's gone. It's done. It's updated. Let's just try again just to make sure. The note here, it says adjust active hours to reduce disruptions. I don't pay any attention to that. So we've tried updates twice, and this time it comes back without any. I would encourage you, when there's a situation where you're updating Windows, to go ahead and update it as many times as it will go until it stops. So let's go ahead at this point. We're going to restart, and that way whatever update we made will take effect, and we'll give it a chance to restart and put that update in. And we're back to an opportunity to go into the BIOS. Instead, it's going to give us another opportunity to go to the BIOS and then go to Windows. And I don't recall which Windows this is, but let's go ahead and tweak Windows a little bit. So where is my mouse here? Did the mouse stop working? Did my mouse die? That is the problem with wireless devices. Nope, there it is. Okay. All right, so let's go to Start, go to Settings. We're going to go to System, and we're going to go to Power and Sleep. And let's make sure that the screen never turns off and that the PC never goes to sleep. And I set up all the production PCs this way because I want the PC available and ready to go when I'm ready to go. I don't want to have to wake it up if it's sleeping. We're also going to go over here to Additional Power Settings, and we're going to make sure that we're in high performance mode. Now, if we were in balanced mode, let's put that in balanced mode and then go back and see what it looks like. Yeah, generally high performance is hidden down here where it says additional plans. So it says show additional plans would be where the high performance would be. So we'll make sure that it's set on high performance. That's what we want it to do. We're not worried about any of this other stuff, at least not for right now. I'll also come down here to About and see that we've got Windows 10 Home, okay? and that it was installed in December 7th. That was just yesterday, 2019. That was 2 years ago. Holy cow. It also tells us that our processor is an i7 4770 CPU at 3.4 gigahertz with 8 gigs of RAM, and then some other information that's not really pertinent. It will also give itself a name, and depending on whether it's a laptop or a desktop or an all-in-one, it'll say, like, desktop, AK4738972. You can change that by just renaming it and make it any other name you want. And then when you give it a name, in fact, let's go ahead and name it for, it is named for this year. All right, so we'll leave it that way. But the name would take the effect the next time you started it. All right, so let's close out of this. Is there anything else we want to look at here? Devices, phone. Oh, you know what? Let's go into apps. I like to get rid of a lot of apps that really aren't necessary, and it looks like I've gotten rid of a lot of them. Generally, there'll be 3 or 4 different Xbox things, and I like to come down to the bottom and start from the bottom and work my way up. So you can uninstall the Xbox. The Windows PC health check, I'm going to take that out. Not worried about that. Things like Skype and Spotify and others will be in here, and I think they just eat up a little bit of RAM and probably give your PC vulnerabilities that you don't want. I'll take out Windows OneDrive and Microsoft Desktop and things like that. Looks like I've taken out most of that stuff. This HAALI media splitter, excuse me, is something that vMix put in there, so we'll leave it there. Looks like we've got the AMD Catalyst Control Center. That's for the graphics card, so we'll leave it there. But some of these others we can't uninstall. Cortina, we can't uninstall. Camera, we can't uninstall. App Installer, so we'll just leave them there. Alarms and clocks, we can't uninstall that. So apparently we've already sort of tried to take a little bit of that out of there. Let's leave this now, and let's go in and see if we've got, we're going to just go to Start and see, do we have vMix on here? We've got Video Editor, but no vMix. Okay. Do we have TeamViewer on here? That's nice to have. Nope, don't have TeamViewer. Do we have Chrome on here? Google Chrome. Yes, we do have Chrome. Well, let's take Chrome and let's go get vMix. So there's my vMix icon. Apparently I've been there before on this PC. And we're just going to download the free trial. Download free trial and download vMix 24, 24.0.0.72. That's the one we want. We're going to download it. While it downloads, let's come over and see, is there anything else? We probably would want to put NDI tools on here, NDI 5 tools, but that takes an email verification, so we won't do that here, I don't think, unless I've got that already on my thumb drive. Let's see, this is what's on the thumb drive, some drivers and things that I use. No, I don't see NDI 5 on there. I ought to put it on there. That would make it easier. We could put TeamViewer on here. If this was an NVIDIA-based PC, we would go and get NVIDIA drivers for our graphics card, but this is not an NVIDIA graphics card, so no luck there. All right, so vMix is downloaded, and let's just open it. Now, one of the things that happens, and probably may not happen since it looks like maybe vMix has been on this PC before, but vMix will want to download and install some sort of net something or other, and you want to do that. You don't want to bypass that. Apparently I've already done that because it's saying, do you want vMix to be able to do this? So we'll say yes. And it also, vMix doesn't like Google Chrome to be open while we're doing this. So we're just going to close this right now. And vMix is kind of doing some checking of the PC. It just wants to see if everything is a good base on which to install vMix. And so in just a second, it's going to pop up and allow us to go through that install process. There it is. It says, okay, welcome to the vMix Setup Wizard. This will install vMix on your computer. It's recommended that you close all other applications before continuing. And Chrome is definitely one that you want to close. And what that means is if you don't close it, then vMix won't be able to install some things that it needs to install until after you reboot. So we're going to click Next to continue. Here's the end user license agreement where it says, you're responsible for your life. And then it wants to install vMix in the program files subdirectory. That's fine. It says it already exists. Would you like to install to that folder anyway? Yes. This is a message you probably won't get. And it says setup will create program shortcuts in the following startup menu. The vMix menu. Okay, well, that's fine. I like that. Do we want to create a desktop icon? Yes, that's fine. We'll do that. And it tells me, all right, these are the answers that you've given us. Do we need to go back or can we install? Let's install. So vMix will go through the installation process and it's going to install, little pieces of helper software like FFmpeg, which is I think it's a license-free version that allows vMix to record and stream and do lots of different things. It's a great little engine. vMix will also install some other helper software like vMix Social or like vMix Desktop Capture, vMix Diagnostics, GT Title Designer. All those will be installed when you install vMix. And now it's registering the files, it's starting the services, configuring the firewall, and starting Matroska's splitter, and it wants to launch vMix. Now, I've obviously installed this before because there's an option that's not here asking me if I wanted to install a particular codec. And I always say, don't launch vMix, do install the codec. But in this case, we'll just go ahead and launch vMix. And you notice it did put a couple shortcuts there, and it wants the license key. Well, I'm going to put in a key, but sorry about this. We'll just switch over to here for a second, and let me put in the license key. So the license key is X, Y, Z, Y, Z, X, A, B, C, C, B, A. And we'll say go. And it says that key is invalid. Well, that's not good. Let's go check and see what I put in. Let's try it again. Try again. Nope, still invalid. Well, let me go check my list of keys. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Well, if I could write things down and read my own writing, I would get it. So let's try it one more time. A, B, C, C, B, A, X, Y, Z, Z, Y, X. Did that do it? Yes. Okay. So it wants me to visit the website and probably check something with the key. So let me, there's not a way for me to do this and be able to shield the key since I wasn't anticipating this. So bear with me for just a second while we do this. we'll log in. There it is, logging in, logging in, logging in. And we'll deactivate it there. And that should allow us to activate it here. And we're good. Okay. All right, so now we're good. So we're going to bring in vMix and let it start up. We don't have a camera. We need to get our capture card installed. This is a welcome note from vMix. And if you're installing vMix for the first time, it's a good idea to go through this. There's some great videos here. vMix does really outstanding videos. They ought to get an award for their videos and for their dry sense of humor in the videos. So here's vMix. That's what it looks for. A couple of changes that I would suggest. Let's go to settings. And I am not a big fan of quick play. So I generally take that off and I add in the production clock. And so that will appear here. The quick play will come out and the production clock will come in right here. And I just like the look of that a little bit. Performance, I've got an AMD. It's not a high performance card. I don't know how much memory it has on it, but vMix is not going to really be able to use it. But if it was an NVIDIA card, with more than 3 gigabytes of memory, I would click the high performance mode, and that would kind of put vMix and that card in sync with each other and let one supercharge the other. External outputs, not make a change there. Audio, I'm not a big fan of automatically mix audio. I think it confuses a lot of people, so I turn that off on the PCs that I build. On audio outputs, I also turn off the Windows default Windows playback device for master output and headphones, and just say none. And if you want one, you can go in and get it, and that'll cause vMix to restart, and it'll come back. And then that's just sort of made those changes. The other thing down here under record is I want to go ahead and set the file name or the destination of my recording. So I'm going to browse through here, and I really want to go to the data drive right here. And I'm going to make a folder here called Recordings. And we'll go to that drive. And so vMix will be saving to the data drive. I want the size of 1920 by 1080 is good. The frame rate matches the frame rate of my production down here in the bottom left corner. My bit rate, I'm going to bump that up to about 25 and go to an H.264 main using the hardware encoder, and I'm going to leave all the audio stuff down here as defaults. I'm also going to go into the stream, and again, this is just how I set up a PC that is going to be used by clients, and it generally comes with H.264 720p 2.5 megabits per second as the streaming quality, and I'm going to bump that up to 1080p 4.5 megabits. Just had a number of clients that said, you know, Tom, we just can't get it to stream in higher than 720. Well, and so hopefully that will help them with that. So we've got vMix the way we want right now. Let's go ahead and we're going to close down vMix for a second. We're going to shut down the PC for a second. Power, shut down. And we're going to go back over here and we'll turn off power and unplug it. And let's go ahead and put this Magewell card in. And we're just going to put it, it'll fit in one of these smaller slots. Let's leave a little bit of room between these two cards just for some airflow. And I'm going to take the adapter off of this one for just a second because it's a little heavy and might cause the card to pull over. I think I have a lighter adapter I can use for that. The adapter here is basically just a DVI on one end because that's what the card is, and then it's got HDMI and component on the other end. So let's just go ahead and put the card in, and then we'll go get a driver for it. I think it doesn't matter whether you do the card first or the driver first, as long as once you've got both of them in, you take a moment and reboot. And let's grab a pen and we'll do our little jumper thing, and that'll get everything started off. And then let's move back over to the PC. And since I didn't install, or I don't think I've installed a driver for this, let's check first off and see if we did. So I'm going to come down here to the Start menu, and I'm going to right-click the Start menu and select Device Manager and see if we've got anything. Yeah, it looks like we've got quite a few things here that we don't have. For some reason, that one flagged the WAN mini port IP. So there may be a driver that we need for that we don't have. And then the multimedia video controller down here is the Magewell card that it doesn't recognize. So that's good to know. So let's go out. Let's see if we can find a driver for it. So we'll bring up Google Chrome, and let's go to magewell.com and see what we can find. Software, is it going to be software, you think? Or let's go to, let's just go to software. Magewell Cloud, UltraStream, Capture, bet it's a Capture. Let's try Capture. Capture Express, USB Capture, plugin for Premiere. No, we really want drivers. Let's see. Legacy products. There we go. Okay. So this is HDMI, DVI. There we go. DVI card. Doesn't look like it's one of those. That one has two connectors on it. So let's just check these others and see. That's standard definition card. That's a 4K card. So it's not that. It's not one of their USB boxes. Boy, these were cool. Hybrid card. I bet it's one of those. Let's see. The card had a number on it, which was let's see. It was an 1130. So let's see if anything here looks like an 1130. Well, let's go back to HDMI cards. Anything looks like an 1130? Nope. Well, let's just Google it and see what happens. Magewell 1130. It looks like we can shop for one. They're still out there. Pro Capture DVI Magewell part number 1130. All right, there we go. That tells us what we want to know. And that looks like our card. It sure does. So we want a driver. We'll get a driver right here. And looks like we've got a Windows 7, 8, and 8.1 and server, and then we've got a Windows 10 driver. So let's take the Windows 10 driver, and we'll do a download only. There, it's going to download. Okay, it's a zip file, so let's show it in the folder, and then we'll right-click it and extract it. And there's the driver, and I think it's going to be an X64. That's the driver right there. And we have an X64 driver installer. So let's see if we can just right click. We'll run this as administrator and go through the process. Please wait while the driver is installed. The driver was successfully installed. Finish. We may have to restart. In fact, it's always a good idea after you install a driver to restart. So let's restart, even though it didn't ask for it. Restarting. While it restarts, I'm going to go get an adapter here real quick. It's not too heavy. Well, I think I'm using that adapter somewhere else, so we'll just have to do the best we can. All right. So let's check in Device Manager again and see if our missing, yep, we don't have that unknown item. But let's look under Sound, Video, and Game Controllers, and we should see our 00 Pro Capture DVI. That's the Magewell right there. So let's open up vMix. In fact, let's just drag this down here, drag that down there, throw those in the trash, and we can start vMix more easily from the taskbar there. And we'll go to Add Input here in the bottom left corner. We'll go to Camera, and there is our DVI. Input is going to be HDMI when we get it set up, 1920 by 1080, NTSC 2997. We're not going to take any audio from it, so we'll say OK. All right. Now, let's carefully put this adapter back on it and see if we can keep the card from pulling out while we adapt it. And we need to get an HDMI source for this. So let me get an HDMI cable, and we'll plug it into a close-by camera. 1 second. Should have thought about this in advance. Sorry about that. It's nice to have a closet full of cables because there's always one there that you need. So let's take a sec and plug into the camera. I think this cable's going to be long enough. And we'll come back over here and plug into the card. Here's my cable. You're just out of sight here. And let's come back into vMix, and there we go. We've got our cable plugged in to our card, which I'm afraid is going to pop out of this computer. So I'll put my finger on it. And now we have a bona fide, legitimate live streaming computer. If you look down at the bottom of the screen, you can see that in the green numbers in the bottom left, 1080p 2997, frames per second is 30, render time is 0, holy cow. GPU memory is 6%, CPU from vMix is 0, total is 0. So we really haven't asked vMix to do anything. You know, maybe if I create some activity here, yeah, you can see the CPU goes up to 1%. Now, if I'm going to record, let's see, let's just record this for a second, and let's see what happens to our stats down here. Our render time bumped up to 13. Now it's back at 7, 8. GPU memory is still 6. CPU from vMix is 15. Total is 15. So we might want to go to the next level and do a stream. what can I stream to that I'm not already, yeah, I'm not prepared to do a stream, but that would be the next thing to check, would be to do a stream of some kind. I just don't have anything ready that I can plug into at this moment. So that would be the next thing to check. The real things that we worry about down here at the bottom are going to be the render time. When the render time exceeds 10, that's you want to be really, really careful. And when it exceeds 30, that's 30 milliseconds. If you've got a 30 frame per second frame rate, 33 milliseconds is going to be one frame. So if I've done my math right. So you don't want the render time to get more than a frame if you can help it. I've seen some render times spike up over 100 or 200. And then, there was choppy video and it was laggy and buffering and just all sorts of bad things happened. So keep an eye on your render time. And the total CPU. Now, vMix calculates total CPU different than Task Manager does. So if you compare the vMix total CPU and the Task Manager total CPU, in fact, let's open that right now and we can take a look. Task Manager. And we'll drag that down over here. We want to have more details. And let's go to Performance. We'll have CPU. And yeah, vMix says 1518, 1514. Task Manager says 18%, parked at 18%. So there you go. And it doesn't even show a GPU on here. It shows our 8 gigs of memory, our solid state drive, another hard drive, my removable drive, and Ethernet. But it also says that my CPU is running at a turbo speed 3.8 when it's a 3.4 gigahertz processor, and that's not uncommon. Means you want to have good cooling, and it does confirm that this is a 4-core with 8 threads. So that's good. So it's a good little processor. We can open the resource monitor here, and let's make this a little smaller. Yeah, there we go. And if we go to the CPU page, and we'll make that view the small view, you can see each one of the threads and the activity in that individual thread. So that's kind of nice to see, especially if you think you have a thread or a core that's spiking because you've got some sort of problem going on. All right, let's turn the recorder off. And we'll stop recording, and we'll turn our stats back on, and we can see that in Task Manager, the CPU has dropped from 18 to 3. The speed is still the same, even though it's not doing anything. And we can see over here that our cores went from, whatever they were, 10, 20%, down to virtually nothing when we turned off the recorder. So my conclusion is, and the next step in this process would be to install this guy in a case, and that's what we'll do on the next show. But my conclusion is that we have a fairly functional PC. Would I use this for production? I might in a jam or in a situation where I was under budgetary constraints. So yeah, I think this might be a good little PC. Next week we'll get this buttoned up, put in a case. I'll have a place to stream and record, and we can double check and see how this little rascal's going to work out. So let's. I'm going to gently let go of that guy, and let's go back over to the studio, and we'll close up shop. So got the keyboard. Got the mouse, careful for the cable, and let's move away. All right. So back over here at the studio desk, and we had a, oh, I did show my key on the camera. Oh, well, yeah, I probably did. Got to be careful for that kind of stuff. I'll disable that key and renew it with a different one. The process is not hard. There are some things you have to know, but you can Google how to build a PC and come up with lots of different directions for that. And there are lots of places you can get bits and pieces. The key, I think, for me would be to start with if I'm building a vMix PC, I'm going to start with the processor. I want to get the biggest, fastest, meanest, ugliest processor I possibly can, and then a motherboard to match. When you do that, you want to be careful about the, oh golly, the phone's going off in the background. Pay no attention to that phone behind the curtain. You want to make sure that the processor and the motherboard match, that they have the same number of pins. And so they'll be, 1150, 1151, 1200, 1700, 2066, lots of different versions like that. So you want to make sure your motherboard and your processor match in terms of pins, and you also want to make sure that your motherboard will accept a processor. So for example, if you have a fourth generation CPU like we have, but your motherboard will only take generations 1 and 2, then that motherboard may not be good for you because the CPU wouldn't work. But then again, the motherboard might take a BIOS update to take a fourth generation CPU, but it would have to have an older first or second CPU available to boot to get to the BIOS to be able to update it to that fourth generation CPU. So it can get a little complicated, but it also can be a lot of fun. And if you enjoy building things and accomplishing things and solving problems like I do, then you would enjoy that type of project. If you have questions, you can put a comment in the YouTube comments below or in the Facebook comment below if you're watching us on Facebook. What an idiot. Doesn't even turn off his phone. Gee whiz. Anyway, you can put a comment in there, and we'd love to have your comments. We'd love to have your likes on YouTube. What that does is it helps boost us in terms of the searches. So we'd like to be found as much as we can because we think we've got some good info that people can use. So help us out, give us a like, subscribe even. That's always fun. And then you'll get a notice when we go live. We go live every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern. So there you go. So I showed my key. I'll have to go back and check that. Maybe I can blur that out or something after the fact. Thanks for showing up. We're going to head over to the post show, so we'll be right back. All righty. Post-show time it is. A little lemonade here. Love that lemonade. Love that lemonade. Back in the olden days, we used to tease that if you showed up late to the show, you had to provide refreshments for the post-show. And so people that showed up late would be challenged to come out, what can I share with all this? And I think what we ended up with was mixed nuts, because we're all a bunch of idiots, and idiots are kind of like nuts. So there. So like Alan has pointed out that goodness, that I showed my key on the camera. you know, Alan, you'd think I would know better how to do this kind of stuff. You really would think, wouldn't you? I would. Oh my gosh. So there. And the dum-dums. Yes, Bill, I've run out of dum-dums. If anybody knows where Ken Richer is, tell him I need more dum-dums. I'm all out. What I've been dum-dums are the little lollipops that are made by the Spangler Candy Company, and Ken is an executive with them and has fixed us up with a giant bag in the past. And so we've been given, every time we ship somebody a camera or a PC or something here from the studio, from the shelves, we throw some dum-dums in there, just kind of remind them where this, not the product, but the purveyor of the product, where it came from. Keep expectations low. That's the key to success. Keep expectations low. That way you can always meet or exceed them. I'm teasing, of course. But let's see. Let's check this other thing right here. Yeah, there we go. Well, I appreciate everybody popping in today. Let's see. Bill's post that says, "What about the dum-dums? Got held for review." Sorry about that, sir. That's pretty funny. They do go well with Streaming Idiots. And Al says his are long gone. So, yeah. Well, Al, it's been a while since we shipped you a PC. You haven't grown out of that one yet? I think that was a beast when we sent it to him. Had all sorts of different. Al wanted standard definition capture card and a high definition capture card because he was transitioning from his old Sony PTZ cameras that were standard definition. Well, I would say transitioning. He still wanted to use them, and he may not have used them all, but he had some backups in the process. Anyway, it was pretty fun. Well, we're going to break away. We've got a PC that we've got to get to UPS this afternoon for some good folks out in Washington, the state, not the district. Yeah, so we will see you next week, and have a great week. Yeah, and we'll let you go out with a little fireworks. How about that? Here we go.